Hi, this is Stacey, and I'm here to make some summer reading suggestions if you happen to live in Florida and would like to get outdoors. I happen to be a big fan of anything that is green. Well, okay, so that's money too, but what I mean is flora and fauna. So the first book I like to recommend if you are into Florida gardening or if you're afraid to get into it is the very faded National Audubon Society Field Guide to Florida. This looks pretty old and pretty tattered, but that is because it has been used with love. And if you're going to have any book in your library to start out your experience understanding the great outdoors in Florida, I highly recommend this guide. It's very little. It can fit in your purse, in your bag, whatever. I think it's supposed to be like a pocket-sized thing for back in the olden days. I don't really know. But this is your absolute essential guide. Okay, that's one. So get comfortable because I could probably talk about this for about 3 years. Okay, so the next one, Birds of Florida Field Guide. And the reason why I suggest this little number, and this is by Stan, Tekiela. I don't want to ruin his last name. The reason why this one works is because it's set up according to color. Isn't that clever? So the bird may appear twice if, let's say, the female is one color and the male is another. And also, it's all done in photographs. And the interesting thing, when you get into birding or animal or plant identification, is there's a lot of different schools of thought and identification when it comes to a photograph versus a drawing versus a painting, etc. They all have their pros and cons. You may say, well, why don't I just, use an app? The fact is to have that book with you and to unplug yourself from anything to do with technology is part of the beauty of being outside. So again, it's the idea of you, nature, and the book, this sacred trifecta. So if you want to get started with birds and realize this one is super faded also, it's probably a much brighter blue, like this was probably bought in the 90s or something. But anyway, this is a fabulous, fabulous book. Another book that I would like to recommend, which also looks a little tired, is called Florida Birds. This is by David Maehr and Herbert Kale III, and it's illustrated by Calaris. Whatever. It's printed by Pineapple Press, which is, I believe, through the University of Florida. The great thing about this book, all drawings. They're all drawings. Some are colors, some are black and white. So it gives you, you can tell what a nerd I am. So if you see something outside that's brown and it looks like some type of hawk, you can compare and contrast this book with the other one just to make sure. So that's how I spend my days. That to me is excitement. It's a wonderful book also because it categorizes, if you just want to look at the birds and pick out, yeah, it looks like this one or that one, you can just go to the back where it's pictures only, or you can be like the smart people section and go where there's actually words that go along with it. And then there's a little checklist in the back that looks kind of mathematical, so I never quite figured it out, but for people who are good at math, maybe that's a good way to approach it. But what I do is if I see a bird somewhere, I write down when I saw it, like this was at the feeder on the porch, and it builds, a little history. And I don't know, I think these things are really precious. Here's a broad-winged hawk that I saw 2007 on Wexford Road. I don't know, stuff like that, it excites me. So this is another lovely book called Florida Birds, the second edition. But wait, there's more. I also have what I call gardening porn. And here is a great example of that. The Secrets of Paris. This book is so gorgeous. I mean, the greens are so lush. The pinks are so lush. Each page looks so incredibly beautiful, and you think, oh, I could probably do something like that in my yard or this in my yard, and the answer is you absolutely cannot unless you had a cadre of gardeners and servants and serfs to do it for you. But it gives you a chance to dream and just see how beautiful gardens, I mean, look at this. I mean, could you just, I think that's Monet's. No, it's not. But anyway, you get inspired by this type of gardening porn. I don't know if it's a real genre or not. If it's not, you heard it here first. But this is an absolutely beautiful book. I think I picked it up like on the remainder rack over at a bookstore. But regardless, these types of books are very important to have in your collection too because a girl can dream. All right, a little bit more porn, but this is more useful gardening porn. This is, it's a whole series called Florida Fabulous. And look at that close-up, again, on a little bit of a faded butterfly. But I love these. They make great gifts if you happen to be someone who, if you happen to know someone who is a gardener, because it has this like 60s kind of feel. But like here's all the stages of the monarch butterfly, going from, you know, a little baby, I took notes, little baby caterpillar all the way to the, that's the very scientific term, little baby caterpillar, to the full-fledged butterfly. But these books really offer a lot of decent information. And I used to, in another life, I was an environmental educator, so this book came in quite handy for me to learn a little bit more about what was flying around in the woods. So that's another lovely book. And then I have another genre, and they have like butterflies, amphibians, flowers, trees. It's a whole series. It's fabulous. And then this is what I call vintage gardening porn. And I picked this up at, gosh, I can't even remember now. But it's just, this is the golden age of Americans' gardens. All right, so anyway, this takes you way back to really the Gilded Age, and it's just the history of these old gardens that were out in Long Island and Cape Cod and Newport, and it just gives a wonderful history. No, I have not read the whole book, but it's something that you can just kind of have, and it's those types of photographs that were black and white and then they touch them up like afterwards with watercolor, etc. And these are just dripping with wonderful inspirational ideas of a time that has passed and how garden styles have changed over the years. Like you can look at certain gardening magazines and think, oh my God, that looks like so 70s. And then you can look at other ones and see how regal and beautiful they were from the golden age. So these are just some, wait, there's more. When I first moved to Florida, I moved to Boca Raton, and I had no idea what to do with my yard until I found this book. This is Florida Gardening, and DeFreitas is the author, D-E-F-R-E-I-T-A-S. I know this one's still in publication. I don't know where the cover ended up going, but this tells you everything you know, step by step, and how to introduce to your lawn, mostly Florida friendly plants. So these are plants that don't need a lot of water and should actually be here. And I really learned a lot about this book when it came to my yard. It kind of became my Bible. So there are several more, but this, I guess you could call this the first Bible. There are several more, but I don't want you to get too bogged down. And then the last thing I'm going to tell you about is something put out by the St. John's Riverkeeper, and it's called Get Your Feet Wet. And this was a wonderful gift that a friend of mine gave me several years ago for my birthday. And it takes you all across the St. John's River and all the different parks and places to explore and things to do and the wildlife that's available. And Florida is such a rich place when it comes to our ecosystems, from the springs where the manatees come to the Everglades, you name it. Okay, the Everglades obviously is not part of the St. John's River, but the idea is that this book can keep you very busy, and when you buy the book, obviously you're supporting the Riverkeeper, and isn't that a wonderful thing? So I've given you just a small sampling of my gardening library when it comes to Florida, and I hope I've given you some ideas to go ahead and go to the bookstore, get your books on Florida gardening, or give these books to friends who you know love the outdoors, and I guarantee you'll learn a lot and you'll have a lot of fun. Thank you so much. I hope you'll leave some comments below, and if you have any information, you can just go ahead and send me a message or Western Union, whatever you want to do, and I'll get back to you. Thank you.